Hello, friends. Welcome to Spike Week. I'm Erik Beimfohr, and on today's show, we're closing out the DK Milly Maker 2025 NFL Best Ball in the DK Milly Maker comes to a close for yours truly today. I fibbed a little bit in the title. We got 3 drafts left to do. We're going to do my final 3 Milly Maker drafts over on DraftKings. Check out my player exposures, my favorite roster constructions, stacks, and everything now that I will be done with the DraftKings Milly Maker. Let's go ahead and do it. Good morning, good morning, good morning. As Bernie says, who is going to last chance, last call for sniping Erik on Will Shipley or any of his other favorite players this morning. It is a wonderful day. Football is back tonight. I know that technically football was back last weekend, but week 0 doesn't really count. When Hawaii versus Stanford is the peak of the game, the slate of games, I don't think that really counts. Tonight we got college football back. We are 1 week away from NFL action, an awesome opening night game that we have. Well, we'll see about the opening night game. It may be awesome for one team, but today that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to draft a few DK Milly Maker teams. As I mentioned, we'll spend some time maybe after one of these first couple ones, digging into my portfolio, my player exposures. We'll pull up Draft IQ and you can see my highest rostered stacks and, of course, individual players. How many 0 RB teams did I build? How many robust RB teams did I build? We'll check out all of that over the course of the show. As you are on your way in, if you could hit that thumbs up button, it is exceptionally helpful for us over here. And if you have not subscribed, don't worry. Yes, we are a best ball focused company, but we are deep in the streets this year in season, doing a ton of different in-season content. I'll continue to be going live here in the mornings during the season starting next week. Already started prepping for week 1 DFS slate and survivor talk and everything about the in-season schedule we'll be covering here as well. So make sure you are subscribed so you can get notified when all of our in-season, and tomorrow I think we'll be launching the in-season schedule in terms of what to expect from a content perspective. Draft number 148 here on DraftKings.com in the Milly Maker, and it looks like we have pick 111. I do quite love the turn still, and we'll see what combination of players at the 1-2 turn. It's nice to have some bullets left here. Someone asked me yesterday, like, you're doing your 150th Milly Maker, but we know that kind of in the final week, this weekend and everything, a lot more of the sort of casual crowd comes in to DraftKings. And are you upset, sad, happy, whatever, that you didn't save any more bullets for, the really, really crazy drafts that come at the end? And admittedly, honestly, yes, a little. I'm a little bit sad that I don't have a few more bullets for them, but my sanity is necessary. This weekend is not going to be an easy time for me to be drafting. And of course, we do have college football all on Saturday, some home league drafts, some family stuff to attend to. And so yesterday I drafted a lot of these Milly Maker teams to get ready for this morning so that we could be done. I'm trying to have mostly drafters teams left, starting. I still have some 5-5-5 teams to do, and of course I have some slow drafts still on the clock, but I'm trying to make next week about as remove as much stress from next week as possible and just be focused on my remaining drafters teams and week 1 and thinking about week 1. Let's see. Sorry, my Slack is going ham here. Must-watch games of tonight. That is a great question. Let's go with the correct answer is supposed to be Cincinnati, Nebraska, because it's the best game. I'm most excited for NC State, East Carolina, maybe even UCF, Jack State. But it's supposed to be Nebraska and Cincinnati. That's probably the correct answer. GM, lots of GM. Hood morning from Pi. GM Versaire 7 days. Amen. Shuby, Martin, Mac, lock in. I agree. I see your question. It's okay to laugh is an excellent username, by the way. I see your question. Don't worry. We will get to it here in just a second. Let me go ahead and make these first selections. As you see here on your screen, if you are watching on YouTube, Puka Nacua, one of my highest owned first round-ish players. The fall, I have been like Pac-Man gobbling up the Puka fall here at the 1-2 turn. I have Puka teams to when I was taking Puka in the middle of the first round. And of course, there he goes. That works out quite all right, I think, here. I understand someone would say, why don't you take Amon-Ra? But I'm gonna go ahead and do a different BTJ, a different BTJ pairing. One thing you'll notice, Jags are a heavy exposure team for me, and Trey McBride. I have 21% Trey McBride, and I'm trying to get all the different possible pairings of Trey McBride, and I don't have this one. So that seems bad. So thank you to this room. I understand. Amon-Ra may be a better option for some, but I'm trying to get more. Jags exposure, and Trey McBride is my sort of flag plant, if you will, of the first couple of rounds. He's falling a little bit, I don't mean to call people casuals. I know that has a very negative connotation to it. The late arriving crowd, that works. The late arriving crowd on DraftKings.com doesn't so much love especially like a Trey McBride who hasn't scored many touchdowns in the second round. So you are able at some points right now in certain rooms to get CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Trey McBride or something. That will happen. So if you don't want to, pull someone like that up and you want to kind of wait out the running back loving crowd, the quarterback loving crowd that's here, I think that's totally reasonable. But McBride's not falling all the way back to be paired with Brian Thomas Jr. If you want to have a Brian Thomas Jr. and Trey McBride team, this is pretty much what you have to do. DK might be going through cancels. Got 2 emails yesterday. None for me so far. I will take a thank you for the shout. I need to take a look at that. Make sure that I'm not doing this show again tomorrow or next week if we get some drafts canceled. One quick thing before we get to this question. If you are on Drafters, our good friends over at Drafters, I'm just literally realizing this as we speak here. They just moved their slow draft clocks down to 2 hours. On DraftKings is still at 8, I think. I believe DraftKings is still at 8. Yeah, obviously you can see here on the clock in a few slows on DraftKings. DraftKings still at 8-hour clocks. Underdog is down to 4-hour clocks, and Drafters is down to 2-hour clocks as of today. So just something to note if you're in the slow draft streets. It's okay to laugh says, how comfortable are you if RJ Harvey is your RB2? You came to the right place. If RJ Harvey is your RB2 in full PPR, other RBs on the roster, Chase Brown, Zach Charbonnet, Will Shipley. Holy shit. I'm very comfortable, and I'm very comfortable with that running back room. That running back room rocks. It's the majority of my favorite running back selections. That's an awesome running back room, and I'm very comfortable with RJ Harvey. I think you can absolutely start him week 1. No questions asked. If you're truly uncomfortable with it, we'll see what kind of workload we project Sharps for. heading into week 1, the projection gurus, I don't do weekly projections, or Bill mixing in, Bill, Chris Rodriguez, and Austin Eckler kind of as a committee back if you really don't feel comfortable. But I think you should feel absolutely comfortable with RJ Harvey. Good morning, Hawker. A lot of gross offense tonight, says Shuby in the college football streets. Agreed. That's why I'm excited for, and I have big North Carolina State bags in the old college football. Yes, we haven't done any shows or content on it because unfortunately it is not exactly the money maker of the best ball world. I'm not sure there is a money maker of the best ball world, but anyway, college football does have, or Underdog does have college football best ball, and I don't know that I'll get all the way to maxing their main tournament, but I got some more drafts to do later today to get jazzed up for the games. And North Carolina State is a team I've taken a lot of. AC, you can't go wrong with the ACC. Oh, Rasheed getting pulled up to pick 34. Holy hell! 54% of my BTJ teams have Travion. That seems a little aggressive. Just like a little aggressive. Let's do Jaden Daniels. I mean, I absolutely love Travion, but that might be a smidge aggressive that have every single one of my goddamn Brian Thomas Jr. teams having. I'm going to do, obviously Terry signed. Let's do Terry. Brian Thomas Jr., Trey McBride, Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin. I pulled Trey up last night in the 5-5-5 with Neighbors, says Shuby. Dude, I'm with you. I love that. I've made sure to do that exact start because I also have Neighbors has gotten up to my, if we call Puka Nacua, if we have removed, and I think Neighbors may have passed Puka for me, overall exposure. We'll see when we look at it. But Neighbors is at a minimum 1A, 1B with Puka in terms of my exposure. And so I've been doing the exact same thing, like you mentioned, making sure I'm getting Neighbors teams with several different players. I have Neighbors Puka teams, but Neighbors, of course, Neighbors Bowers, Neighbors AJ Brown, Neighbors Trey McBride, right? Making sure Neighbors London, all those different guys, of course. Generally not the running backs, however. McBride over Bowers, asks Sizzle. Not I have Bowers ranked just ahead of Trey McBride, but I've sort of, the fact that Bowers kind of goes in a slightly more static and has gone in a slightly more static spot on the board all summer. I have used Trey McBride more so as the piece to move around the board because I can get him with absolutely anyone that I want, and I want to do that. Brock Bowers, not quite the case. I'm overweight on Brock Bowers as well. It's just that Trey McBride has been sort of, like I said, sort of that queen on the chessboard that I like him almost pretty much the same. I believe I have them ranked right next to each other. Trey McBride, Brock Bowers are sort of interchangeable for me. And the fact that I can really get McBride with absolutely everyone. And then, of course, for plenty of drafts, as I mentioned, he's falling into the third round, sometimes the middle of the third round. So I naturally have more exposure. And when I like him just the same as Brock Bowers, I've been just trying to shift him around and use him as more of the get unique elite tight end. And exactly as B. Kurt says, a good shout. If you go to Draft IQ, if you get a draft canceled, you can find the draft boards with the within Draft IQ. Just get that info. Get the draft that got canceled, and you can find the board in the lineups page of Draft IQ. How much bully tight end have you done? Any Bowers / Trey McBride or Kittle plus Kittle? I don't do it very often. I've very rarely done it, but I actually just did it like maybe my last draft last night. McBride, Kittle. But Kittle, it was McBride fell to the third and Kittle fell to the fourth. Like middle of the third, Trey McBride, like middle of the fourth, George Kittle. I was like, well, okay. I got to do, like, I believe it was a Neighbors, I'm making this up, right? But like Neighbors, JT, McBride, Kittle or something. I did that, and I just couldn't pass on that combination of players. But yeah, I have done it. Speaking of RJ Harvey, we're going to do RJ Harvey here. One thing I have been doing here down the home stretch and really all summer on DraftKings that I've tried to just constantly remind myself is it feels counterintuitive because it's a full PPR site, right? Sure, let's do the Daniels double. I know I have Daniels Terry teams, and I know I have Daniels Debo teams, but I don't even know if I have that double stack a single time in this tournament. But even though it's full PPR, even though the bonuses I think are really good for the receivers, certainly the superstar wide receivers, like I said, it's counterintuitive, but with 20 rounds, with the insane amount of late wide receivers that I personally like, and I think just about everyone likes a lot of the late wide receivers that are available, with the fact that now this first guy I'm going to say is a terrible example because I'm not going to draft him today. I've drafted him plenty, but Jaden Reed was falling for a significant portion of the summer since his injury at the last month. Josh Downs, Chris Godwin, Luther Burden was free. We obviously have the Jalen Cokers now, Isaac Tesla's, Dante Thornton's, Torrey Horton's, Troy Franklin's, Xavier Legette's. You would get random fallers. Juwan Jennings falling outside of the top 100. Just tons and tons and tons of different fallers amongst wide receivers happens more frequently than the other positions on DraftKings. And there's just good value at the position later. I forced myself to take, even if it's Harvey, even if it's Travion, but I'm like 10% Jonathan Taylor. I have like 15% Jahmyr Gibbs. I have taken non-zero amount of a bunch of, let's call them the Voldemort running backs. I have non-zeros on those guys. I don't really love Bucky, but I forced myself to take Bucky. I forced myself to take some of these backs that I honestly would not normally like to bet on. I've been very strict about how I do it, and I'm not getting carried away. I am taking the guys I prefer more, Jahmyr Gibbs, Travion Henderson being the front runners, RJ Harvey, Amari and Hampton, those guys. But when you get to later rounds, I've found that I do like plenty of late running backs, but the receivers are even stronger. And I don't want to just ho-hum, be stubborn and say, well, I'm a zero running back, bro. I like these elite wide receivers better for every pick. And then I get to round like 13. And from round 13 on, at every time I'm on the clock, the best pick is a wide receiver. So like, you got to be able to adapt and adjust when the market is giving you something in later rounds. Our famous back to front drafting strategy, style, whatever you want to call it. So that's how I've been thinking about it. And that's why someone like an RJ Harvey is definitely a priority for me. Roheen says, haven't really been drafting Rashee all offseason. I'm hammering him now. I got him after Bill yesterday. Absolutely. I'm with you. I've been trying to, in my last like 6th round, Rashee Rice. Look, is 6 games totally ideal? No, but I kind of prefer it at the beginning of the season because I can really plan for it, right? If you got the late season, there's just so much extra added risk. There's so much more variance in a later season suspension. There's bye weeks that you have to deal with from your other wide receivers. So now you're introducing this guy who's essentially out during your players' bye weeks. I kind of like the beginning of the season. I'm taking Rashee Rice right now for sure. More so DraftKings, and then like the playoff format contests I prefer. But after Bill is crazy. I got up to 5% Bill, and I'm pretty happy about that. Let's see here. Not loving this draft, guys. Let's do Addison. Addison, wide receiver 4. and let's do Keon. He says, make sure you take some early running backs and then takes more wide receivers. But I think I've been trying not to get more than like, 6. You guys know I'm a zero running back bro at my core, but I've been trying to just keep bullets in the chamber at the wide receiver position. That has led to a lot of more so elite tight end, but elite tight end, elite quarterback. It doesn't have to just be running backs, but knowing the wide receivers are available later. I've just been using that to pile on the other positions more than I would in like a traditional year. I have big, huge monster bags of elite tight end and to a, like I said, to a lesser extent, elite quarterback, but something I'm very much in on. Tons of Jalen Hurts, overweight, both Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Not overweight Jaden Daniels, but have my shares of Jaden Daniels, even have my shares of Joe Burrow. I believe I managed to get overweight Patrick Mahomes as another option. So I've just been using, again, the late round wide receivers to help me with my exposures to these other spots. Have you taken the heavy flag plant? Have you taken the heavy flag plant exposures for multiple years? What are some of your biggest wins in best ball? Yeah, I pretty much take heavy stands every single season. It's gone really, really well and really, really poor. Depending upon, I notably drafted like 50% Darrington Evans like 4 years ago, and 50% like Sam Howell, which seems like a bad thing, but it was actually an absolutely awesome thing a couple of years ago when he was the Washington starting quarterback. The year, the Kyron and Puka year, I had absolutely monster bags of Kyron. To your question about biggest wins in best ball, I have 2 top 10 finishes in Best Ball Mania. Some other, solid scores, made the finals of the DraftKings 550, the 555, the high stakes tournament on DraftKings, made the finals last year. Have a bunch of different finals, but I would say that the most notable things are finishing top 10 in Best Ball Mania twice. Once, myself and Pete Overzet drafted a team together on one of his streams, and we got 8th in Best Ball Mania 2. Which was a really fun team, a blast from the past. Shout out to Sony Michel and Rashad Penny, no longer in the NFL, were our 2, like, we drafted Kyle Pitts. That was the year Kyle Pitts was actually good. That was the year CeeDee Lamb wasn't as good. He was fine, but wasn't as good. We finished in the top 10 in Best Ball Mania. And then the year after that was the Howell year. I had huge Ravens bags: Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, et cetera. But that was Kyron. That was the Kyron season. And I had really heavy bags of Kyron Williams and had a 0 running back team that actually started. The first running back I took was Antonio Gibson on the New England Patriots, which, shocker, he was terrible. But Kyron Williams was my last round pick on that team, or second to last round pick on that team the year that he broke out, and at one point had a very serious sweat for Best Ball Mania, but we just petered out at the end. DK Metcalf, George Pickens. I certainly don't remember, do I? But I had the highest scoring team in that final that did not have CeeDee Lamb. That was the year CeeDee Lamb went for like 40 in the finals in week 17. And I had Amon-Ra and Jalen Waddle at the 1-2 turn, and all the other best teams had CeeDee Lamb, and we managed to still navigate our way close to the top, but close, but no cigar. Logically, I think the approach makes a ton of sense. Placing a future on 1 or 2 big bets and then making a bunch of different bets around those positions. Yeah, I think what I've sort of classified it as historically is like having your core assets, taking a handful of the thing that you believe in the most, right? The cheesy Moneyball phrase that I've used like a million times. It's like, do you believe in this thing or not? And let's see here. I obviously could do Kyler. I really don't want to keep doing Kyler with let's double dip the Broncos backfield. Just take Dobbins with Harvey. I might do McCarthy, as you see here. I know it's a little early, a whole round. Can you believe it? A whole round. But I really, honestly, 5% is probably not where I want to be on JJ McCarthy, and I really don't have him with like any of these guys. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is someone 12%, but a bunch of Trevor Lawrence because of Brian Thomas Jr. being on this team. Let's mix it up a little bit and go JJ McCarthy paired with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. But yeah, having like these core assets, right? That everyone, I truly believe that everybody has this. Like even the people that will say like, I don't have player takes. I win with structure. I win with XYZ. It's like, I think if you win with structure, there's something about a structure that probably lends itself to individual players because structures are driven by players. So I think like at its like face value, everything about best ball, everyone has some form of like thing that they really truly believe in from a player perspective. And so I like to take those things, whatever those things are that you believe in the most. It could be 1 or 2 for you. It could be 5 or 6. It could be 7 or 8. I don't know. It's up to each person. Take what those core assets are, the things you believe in the most, right? Do we believe in this thing or not? You say yes, you build your portfolio around those players. Not in every single draft. Like even I only have a 60% Will Shipley, right? Like, which is an obscene number for most people. I get it. But if they're super cheap, I tend to go pretty heavy on them, like the Howell thing, like I talked about, and build and then build around them, right? Get a like Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin is not some priority stack to me, but it also seems like a perfectly fine to very good stack to have in best ball. So have that with Will Shipley, right? I don't even like really Bo Nix plus Cortland Sutton. I'm a little more into Bo Nix now, but Bo Nix plus Cortland Sutton, not a priority stack for me. But having those core assets allows you to you can't cover every base, but you can cover a lot more around your like you're just if you draft 8 to 15% of everyone, you're just going to have all this shit spread out all over the place. And maybe that's what you want. You want to just randomize it, understand the fact that you're just not going to have most players paired together with other players, maybe once, right? But I'm trying to kind of do the opposite of that. Been thinking on my strategy for the work league. 16 team, 1 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Got pick 3 and have my strategy, but would be interested if you had to take. Well, this reeks of 0 running back. Give me CeeDee Lamb or Jamar Chase, assuming that they're there. I would assume your work colleagues are going to draft Saquon or Bijan or something like that, Bijan, in that first round. This is just like a beat the ever-loving you-know-what out of everyone. With 16 teams, I want to have 3 wide receivers. Because you said, did you say PPR? If it's not PPR, maybe we're talking a little bit different here. But I would be definitely hammering as much wide receiver as I could because you only got to fill 1 running back spot, and like you can do that in Dylan Sampson can do that one, brother. Chris Rodriguez or Bill can do the running back thing for you. I want to hammer people at the other positions. Elite tight end, elite quarterback. If I only got to fill, God damn, there goes Sampson. Who just did that? Bernie. I fucking knew it was Bernie. I tried to get away from you guys. Yep. See? Versaire called it. That's what I get. That's what I get. Sampson, just such a smash. As Versaire says, trying to leave every draft with Dylan Sampson. I'm with you. I do not want Nick Chubb. Braylon works. I have a nice hefty bag of Braylon also. I love Harold Fannin, of course, but Let's see if Badger fan takes Jake Ferguson. He does not. I'm going to do Jake Ferguson, as you see here. Of course, a nice little bring back to the Daniels and Terry stack. Plays Washington in week 17, but also plays in, not that I care that much about week 15, but it certainly doesn't hurt. And I'm at just about 8%. So Jake Ferguson looks pretty good on this team through, what is that, 12 rounds? Through 12 rounds of BBM, of the 148th DraftKings Milly Maker draft for me of the summer. Brian Thomas Jr., Trey McBride, Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, RJ Harvey, Debo Samuel. So we got the Daniels double stack. Say that one 10 times fast. Jordan Addison, Keon Coleman. I like taking Addison. I like taking Rasheed, like we talked about. I like taking those guys, especially on zero running back teams, because like if I need Jordan Addison for the first 3 weeks with BTJ, Terry McLaurin, Debo, Keon, and the future wide receivers I'm going to be drafting that I just said I believe in really strongly, they're not on bye, right? Jalen Coker and Torrey Horton and Xavier Legette and Troy Franklin are not on bye during these weeks. If I really need Jordan Addison to advance on those teams, this team is probably fucked anyway, you know. That 1% James Cook might come back to hurt you. It is definitely possible. But I just am almost always going to bet against committee backs who derived their fantasy value last year from leading the league in rushing touchdowns. I just, James Cook is a good pass catcher. He just doesn't really catch passes. They've, if anything, they've indicated, I know that they gave him a contract extension, but if anything, they've indicated that like they want to use Ray more. Now, maybe that comes at the expense of Ty Johnson, but Ty Johnson is like just like such a locked in, stable, like passing down back, stone cold killer in pass protection. That's what they love him for. And I just don't think the Bills have any intent on changing the way that they run their backfield committee. And they've told us as much. Sean McDermott has said specifically. So, you gotta, like, as I've said, like certainly the last couple of months, but all summer is like, let's just put the cojones on the table, man. Do you believe in the other guys over James Cook? Then look, James Cook could score 20 touchdowns and kill you, but so could someone else, I love it. Martin putting it out there in the universe. Yeah. So Mike says top 10 in BBMs. Awesome. There's just nothing, as someone I'm 37 years old. I've gambled a long time, since before I was gambling before it was legal. Certainly everybody probably remembers the 5 dimes days. I mean, I can't believe at like 19 years old, so I had to use, I'm so old, to bet on sports. We had to use, like, go to Walmart, do the net teller thing, if you remember that. Because this was 2000. So I'm 19 years old. This was 2007, 2006, 2007. You like the internet was barely a goddamn thing in 2006, 2007. Back then you had to have Facebook. You had to have a college email address to be on Facebook back then. And so to bet on sports, there was obviously nothing in the United States. And to deposit on like a 5 dimes, you couldn't just use PayPal. You couldn't just use your bank account. You had to go do the net teller. It was also, and like, if I didn't have money to be pissing away on that kind of stuff. And yet I did. And I can't believe that we did this. Like, you sent your money over to into the Bahamas or wherever the hell 5 dimes was based. And if obviously they did pay out, right? But you got a paper check when you made money. They mailed you a paper check. It took like months to get there. And just leaving like I said, there was no chance I had the appropriate amount of funds in my bank account to be, let's go Let's go get. See, I only have 5% Jalen Coker, and that's too light. That's one of the guys I've been trying to rectify, and we might take him on all three of these teams. But like, I've been betting and gambling on all this since the net teller days, and the most fun, truly the most fun. I've been to a bunch of DraftKings live finals, and those are awesome sweats. It's more so miserable than it is fun. Let's do Tesla as my bring back. Of course, playing against the Minnesota Vikings in week 17. We're going to do Tesla bring back here in round 14, trying to get my exposure up to both Coker and Tesla. The week 17 sweat is truly like the most fun. I've been through it all, and that is easily the most fun. Making a best ball final and sweating it out in week 17 is just like, it's like the culmination of all these hours and hours that you spent. It's one essentially day of games, one weekend of games to decide it all. So much money up for grabs. It can literally change your life, or you can be left disappointed, but the sweat is like the single most fun. Honestly, I don't think there's anything that matches it. And there's a lot of other fun things to sweat. I play DFS every week, right? I bet on sports, all that kind of stuff. Nothing matches the week 17 BBM sweat. Net teller and party poker days. Using the Western Union at the grocery store to send money to Costa Rica. Exactly. Legal party poker days. Seems legit. Bobby started running my own book for my friends when I was 12. Yeah, I remember I was barely of age. So also like I used to spit dip. I still do fake dip stuff. Nicotine I've at least quit the bad stuff. But anyway, I could barely buy like chewing tobacco or cigarettes or whatever, porno mags. Like I was barely of age, and I'm going to the fucking net teller, or Western Union, and sending money down to Costa Rica to some, like they should have just absolutely walked away with all of our money, and they could have, and there's nothing we could have done. But God, the amount of times that I did that. And then, when you win, it feels so awesome, but you do the cash out thing. It's a really miserable process. You get the paper check mailed to you like a month and a half later, and you're just sitting there like, is this ever going to come in the mail? Did I just piss away am I actually going to get this money that I grinded on 5 dimes reduced juice, right? -1. Remember the -105 days? As now everything's like -125 on these goddamn legal books. But 5 dimes getting like -103. Those were the days. Yep, party poker. One of the names I sent it to was 111. That's Dorito. That's great. If that doesn't summarize the party poker 5 dimes sportsbook.ag experience, then I don't know what does. Bodog. Yeah. Those were good times. Yep. I think if you're around our age, poker stars, yep. Man, those are fun times. And just like how truly like the most willful ignorance of all time. Just no reason to be so irresponsible with money, but we just didn't know better. It's such different times. It's crazy how like I've reached the point where I'm like, it was so different. Your grandparents or your parents would tell you like, it was just a different time back then. And it's like, that's the truth now. I wonder if Badger fan likes Chris Rodriguez, or I got to do Chris Rodriguez for the stack, right? For the full on Washington onslaught here with Chris Rodriguez. But I want to get Keaton on this team as RB5, right? Yeah, that would be RB5. All right, sweet. We get Keaton there. Don't have Keaton on. Obviously, this is my BTJ Trey McBride team, so I don't have Keaton on there with those two. So this is my first 148th team, and my first time I have Keaton. I have 25% Trey McBride and like 15% Brian Thomas Jr. and like 35% Keaton Mitchell, and it took till team 148 to get them all on the same team. Best ball exposures are crazy. You just truly cannot possibly cover every base. It's insane. Yeah, the sweat is what brings you back. It's like I'm telling you, it sounds insane because like there's obviously bigger sweats that you can have with more money invested, whatever. Like play the Thunderdome one time on DraftKings and like that's like multiple years of sweats in terms of true monetary, the dollar amount on an individual team is seasons and seasons of a best ball. But I don't know what it is. I think it's like it's such a marathon to get there, and it's such a bumpy road. Like, no, you could have the best season ever. Like, I've had seasons of 25% advance rate, and I've had seasons of 10% advance rate, and everywhere in the middle. The 25% advance rates, you feel on top of the world. And even in those seasons, it's like that waiting on the 5 dimes paper check to come in the mail. You're like, I know I'm getting money, but this is very uncomfortable. Like the whole way is like really not all that fun. Like even when you get to celebrate, you drafted Kyron Williams, or last year you had 30% Saquon or Derrick Henry or whatever, Bucky Irving, like even along the way, you get body blows. The whole season is a series of fucking body blows. And like you got to survive them. And sometimes you don't. But even in the good seasons when you're surviving them, I think it's that. I think it's like I survived all these shots to the ribs, and we came out in week 17, and this is it, right? And it's never the team you expect. This is why we spend all this time all summer, and I get it. It's fun. Like we need to do the work, right? But it's just never the 2 teams that I've had finish high. The Dorito, who won the Drafters main event a couple of seasons ago, can tell you. His team is one of my favorite teams to reference in terms of like winning best ball teams, where he had all the guys who hit that individual season. He was on all the right stuff. And then you go back and look, and the most underrated, he wasn't the MVP of the team, of course, but the glue guy, if you will, right? 6th man of the year or whatever. The 6th man of the year on his $500,000 team or whatever it was, insane amount of money that he won. Hold on one second. Let's do Sean Tucker here. That's RB6, right? Yeah. And we got more RBs to go. Let me think about this. Should I do the running back now? Is there a wide receiver? As you can see, I have a whole shitload of De'Ami Brown, and he does go well. Let's do Malik here. And then we'll polish up running back in 19 and 20. I actually have a couple of backs at the end of drafts that I'm taking at a good clip right now. But anyway, so Dorito wins the Drafters main event, right, for multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yes, truly the most important player that nobody thinks about was Dante Foreman. Dante Foreman. This was Chicago Bears, Dante Foreman. And no one remembers him from that year, right? This was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Dorito. I can't remember. Absolute smash for just 2 games. Or everybody gets hurt in the Bears backfield, and he comes on. And it just so happened to be the stretch of the season where, I believe that was was that the H-An year? So 3 years ago. Right? So H-An's out, and you just needed something to get you through a couple of weeks, and pops up just the blip on the radar. He's never to be heard from again in the NFL. We called him the cockroach because he couldn't kill him. Every year he kept popping up on a new team. Tore his Achilles, who cares? Tears his ACL, who cares? He pops back up, right? Dante Foreman, officially dead now, by the way. We stepped on him and it's over with Dante Foreman. But Kyron was hurt, and I think H-An was hurt, right? The league win, but the MVPs, right? The LeBron Jameses is Kyron Williams, or probably bad reference. The Jimmy Butler is probably more like a Kyron Williams, really hard worker. late round pick. Nikola Jokic is hurt, dinged up for a month. And like you have this awesome team. You need a couple of weeks out of some random guy, and poof, up pops Dante Foreman and just like saves the season. It's the difference between winning like $5,000 and $500,000. Like, and now $5,000 is great. No one's complaining about $5,000, but $500,000 is a quite significantly higher amount and life-changing money. And that's just, sometimes it's like those things shake out in funny ways. My team's, like I said, Sony Michel. I'm trying to think of some of the guys that were on these teams. George, 2 years ago, when I had a nice finish in BBM, I was really heavy on Lamar stacks that season. But the guy who nearly like really won me all the money was George Pickens, who I drafted like 4% up, 3% up or something. I actually just didn't like George Pickens. And the team was like Antonio Gibson was a whiff, but it just all right. It just all sort of blends together perfectly. George Pickens, that was the year Amari Cooper went for 50 in week 16 and then did not play in week 17. The only reason I even made the final, and then I did use pick and score in the final, but the only reason I even made the final, that was the Achane Kyron year, right? I had Achane and Kyron on that team. Was because George Pickens also had a huge week 16, and I just so happened to do well enough to beat a couple of Amari Cooper teams in my week 16 pod. And so like you just never know which team it's going to be. So we build as best we can. We build around you build around the Kyron. You make the Kyron bet, you make the Achane bet, you make the Lamar bet, whatever, and then you do what we talked about before, where you can spread some seed out around all the different stuff near that player. So one guy I am taking, oh my God, running back has gotten wiped out real bad, huh? So with that, a guy who I am taking right now, reluctantly, but I've been hammering in the last round when I need a running back, is Chris Brooks of the Green Bay Packers. Man, running back is bad, and Fannin is still here. I just cannot do the 3 tight end thing. I can't believe I'm going to leave Fannin for someone else. That is so that is. I know you would say, well, why don't you just take him, dumbass? But nonetheless, I'm gonna toss Jalen Royals onto this team. He's a guy I have huge bags of, but I'm trying to make sure, as I've talked a lot about like the last 2 weeks or so, of the guys who I was taking a ton of before, Shipley, etc., right? Making sure that I still get them onto these teams where there's some new guys, right? I'm getting Tesla. I wasn't drafting Tesla before, but still make sure you get Shipley on Tesla teams. Make sure you get Royals on Tesla teams. Make sure you get Trey McBride on Tesla teams, so that it's not just like him with other new guys. I don't want my core, right? If we're going to make these stands and then diversify around them, you need to have the stands on the new guys you're diversifying with at the end. All right. This is God damn it, I keep saying BBM. DK Milly 148. 2792 team, Brian Thomas Jr., Trey McBride, Jaden Daniels with Terry McLaurin, RJ Harvey, the old Hawkeye, Debo Samuel, Jordan Addison, Keon Coleman, J.K. Dobbins. So we bought the Broncos backfield. J.J. McCarthy, Braylon Allen, Jake Ferguson, bring back to our Washington stack. That's fun. Jalen Coker, Isaac Tesla. Then we hammer some running backs. Chris Rodriguez, Keaton Mitchell, Sean Tucker. Malik Washington plays against Sean Tucker in the final. That's a fun little thing that we tell ourselves matters, and it doesn't, but it's fun to envision nonetheless. So what if Sean Tucker's the starting running back and Tyreek Hill is out in week 17? This correlation rocks. Then Chris Brooks and Jalen Royals. Did Brooks pass up Wilson? As of the final preseason game, that is how it played out. That doesn't mean that's exactly what's going to happen in the regular season. I've been chasing this stupid Packers RB2 thing for goddamn months. I don't think it's like over. So I also would say if Josh Jacobs gets hurt, like Emmanuel Wilson is going to play. Like it's not, if you had drafted Emmanuel Wilson, it's definitely not over for Emmanuel Wilson. But the latest information that we have is Chris Brooks playing ahead of Emmanuel Wilson. and also playing on passing downs alongside, so we'll see what happens with that. But that's the latest intel that we've gotten from the Green Bay Packers. And so with Chris Brooks being it's totally, even if he's not. So first of all, Marshawn Lloyd is out for another hamstring injury, another extended absence coming from Marshawn Lloyd. I'm just mostly counting him out given all the injuries now at this point. Pick 11 again. The DK gods want me to have pick 11 today, it appears. I'm just going in saying, look, if Chris Brooks is the second back in Green Bay, he is like 1% owned in these tournaments. If that, it's probably us that drafted him, and that's worth it to me. Brooks, yeah. I took Chris Brooks away from Beekert, last draftable running back he had. That's why I took Jalen Royals. Normally I would make that actually an 8 running back room, but we were in a running back heavy draft for sure that the folks were not allowing us to get the volume of running backs that we would normally want. Jarquez, Hunter versus Corum. Any take there? I still side with Hunter in terms of like positive coach speak and all that kind of stuff. It's been a little bit more on Hunter. They specifically called out, kind of the fact that he can do some different things than what their running backs traditionally do for the Rams most recently. Corum did, of course, play ahead of Jarquez in the preseason. I'm not like that their confidence level is very low, but I wasn't a big Corum guy as a prospect, and I thought Hunter was rather intriguing, not like a superstar slam dunk prospect by any stretch of the imagination, but pretty intriguing. And I think he just offers something that Corum doesn't. And I think McVay could end up valuing that if something were to happen to Kyren Williams. And maybe if something doesn't, he could offer something that they would like to see at the running back position that they haven't had since Todd Gurley or whatever. Roheen I also took Chris Brooks earlier today on a Lamar Baltimore stack. Marshawn Lloyd is the anti cockroach. Yeah, exactly. He just dies. He may get in the house for a second and then he just keels over, as opposed to staying there for forever. Gambling money and real life money are vastly different. Complain about $3 for gas, but fire 100. This chef's kiss could not be more true. Like, this is absolutely true of myself. I will go. You go to the grocery store, and there's definitely certain things that you buy, like the premium version of or whatever. But there's also certain things where I'm like, let's get the one that's let's just get the store brand. It's a dime cheaper, right? It's $1. It's $1.09 instead of $1.19. I'm like, that one's cheaper, right? Let's get the cheaper one. And then I'm like, just ripping same game parlays tonight in Nebraska versus Cincinnati or whatever football games, and like no run. Oh, it's minus 125, right? The bet tonight's minus 125. Who cares? Right. I can't, like, it would be the equivalent to being like aghast at betting something minus 125 when you can get it at minus 120. But I'm like, when I'm betting on DK Sportsbook, like, I don't give a shit. Couldn't possibly care less. It's so stupid. It's like our brains are completely and utterly broken from all this. Let's see here. Just another friendly reminder, if you're over on Drafters in any slow drafts, god damn, Puka and Neighbors, you guys, this is terrible. Okay, gonna make me do it again, huh? We're gonna scroll down again. What about a running back start? Let's do Genty. Let's do a running. What about Genty? Let's do Genty Jonathan Taylor. How about that? Let's have some fun. Martin, don't do Genty. I thought about it. He said, don't do Genty Irving. I already have that combo. That's it was in consideration. I just didn't want to do the BTJ thing again. Let's not do Trey McBride because also George Kittle might make it back to the 3-4 turn. Let's build again. If I love all these later wide receivers, let's practice what we preach. Put your money where your mouth is. Name another cliche. Let's do it. That's hilarious. Anyone know if the DK Milly is on track to fill? As Sizzle says, yeah, it looks like it's going to fill. It is. Let me check how full it is right now. So 882,000 entries. It is at 740. We'll call it 743. So 140,000 entries. And I know that seems like a truly obscene amount, but like this starting that like through this weekend and the holiday weekend also, it's going to go absolutely nuts. Just a straight cash machine. Just a what was that? I can't even do the right. Just straight money printer for old DraftKings this weekend. Just a nickel from all of us. It's insane how much volume comes in this weekend. Like it really is insane. And of course, then next week. Do you have specific players that you value higher in DK due to the bonuses? Maybe Lamar for rushing and passing bonus. Generally, QB not as valuable, but the bonuses might offset that. Yeah. To your QB point, the main cohort of players I think are more valuable, specifically from the bonuses, are actually Lamar is great, but it's actually some of the pocket passers, Mahomes, Justin Herbert. Used to be the poster boy for this exact question from like historically. The easy answer was always RIP. He's not dead, but he's retired. Derek Carr was the answer to this question, where it was just like, look, he's not going to run for a touchdown ever, and he's not going to run for any yards ever, and it's disgusting. He's probably not going to throw for a ton of touchdowns, but he throws for 300 yards a lot, and those extra 3 points are like really valuable actually on DraftKings. So it's the Derek Carrs of the world. I still don't really like love them. I'm not like building my portfolio around Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford types, but those guys are a little bit more valuable. The guys who don't provide anything with their legs. Damn, Kittle goes 33% Marv with Genty. Don't really want to do that. How about I've done this start before and I took Xavier Worthy. That's funny. Okay, let's do T-Mac. Just trying to check these. Check some of these exposures. Boy, there are a lot of guys I don't have with Genty and Taylor. I think I feel somewhat safe saying this, but if JMO goes, it's certainly not the end of the world. But I like pulling JMO all the way over here with those running backs. Ashton Genty, Jonathan Taylor, Tetaroa McMillan, and Jameson Williams to start. Yeah, Cousins. Shout out Kendrick. Kendrick Park, not Kendrick Lamar. So you're saying the best time to draft is this weekend? Noted. Yeah, I think so. That's what you're just gonna get. I mean, really, on DraftKings, especially this next week, I just think the weekend is when drafts are really gonna fly. You're gonna have people, right? It's a holiday weekend. You're gonna get draft rooms that you absolutely love. He says as he's doing his final drafts today, but unfortunately, life will be in the way. Do you think Kendrick Lamar knows what best ball is? That seems unlikely. That seems unlikely. Let's see here. Quite the fall for Marv. I've got some pretty hefty Marvin Harrison Jr. bags going after Emeka Buka in this draft. Xavier Worthy and Marvin Harrison going after Emeka Buka here in the 4th round. Oh God, yeah. Let's not. Skip Bayless, Gilbert Arenas, and Aqib Talib. What has happened? What has happened here? Hey. Killing me, guys. Do. One thing you'll see, I think, this weekend that I've sort of been seeing so far, it's not anything crazy, but if you're drafting on DraftKings down this home stretch, the other big thing to remember, given the fact that we have a bunch of later picks that we really, really like, that was part of the reason I really wanted to get this done also, is I don't think it will matter, and it can be offset by the softer rooms over the course of the next week. But before Tesla, Coker, Horton, Leggett, Franklin, whatever, before those Fannin, before those guys continue to Dylan Sampson, before those guys continue to shoot up, I wanted to just get as many drafts in as I could to get those guys and use their ADPs to my advantage. We'll see if that proves wise or stupid. Probably the latter. But when we have those guys, the other thing, right, is not just informing our early decisions, but informing us on like making sure we secure the quarterbacks that we want to have on each team. If you need a certain quarterback, did Ricky Pearsall fall to pick 59 in this economy? Damn, I do have him on, but he probably makes a lot of sense. It says 100% of Ashton Genty, Jonathan Taylor teams. I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's one, given the fact that there's no other numbers here. My final percentage that you see on your screen from the Draft Hacker is percentage with first and second round pick together on that same team, right? So a CD Trey McBride team. How often do you have that player on there? Let's do Rasheed here. A pretty good fit, I think, on a team needing wide receiver juice, particularly later in the season. Pick 62, Rasheed Rice. Somebody asked before, as Travis Hunter goes, I forgot to answer that one. Was do you ever draft Travis Hunter on Brian Thomas Jr. teams? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't draft like a ton of Travis Hunter, and so I don't do it a ton. I just prefer Brian Thomas Jr. and I do probably prefer them separate, like maybe with a Strange or Brenton Strange or De'Ami Brown or the running backs or something like that. But I think they're fine together, and I have drafted them together. Like if they're both, I'm quite confident that Brian Thomas Jr. is awesome, and if Travis Hunter is as good as the Bulls think, then yeah, absolutely. Like the offense will just rock. I don't really care if Travis Hunter takes a couple targets away from Brian Thomas Jr. if he's awesome and makes the offense better. I think it's just because Marv stinks. So like, why is Marv dropping? Like, I understand. That's fine. I completely understand. But what a wild reaction to one season. Heading into last year, Marvin Harrison Jr. was one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen in a long time. Him and Malik Neighbors were a wide receiver class like we truly have just like not seen. He was an absolutely dominant college player. Exactly everything you look for in a pro prospect. So much so that we drafted him at the 1-2 turn in best ball. Now, you could say that was foolish, sure, but people said the same thing about Malik Neighbors at the 2-3 turn, and that proved to be a dumb price. he's now going in the top 10, right, of drafts. Malik Neighbors, if you thought, oh, you could draft a rookie wide receiver at that in the first 2 rounds, it's like, well, actually, Malik Neighbors was an awesome pick in those early rounds. But anyway, like we how quickly we went from Marvin Harrison Jr. is a legendary prospect to Marvin Harrison Jr. sucks at football. Like the answer is if you have a somewhat, and it's like he had like 900 yards. We think other guys are good who had the same seasons, but because the expectations were so high for Marvin Harrison that we put the bar is like he has to be an absolute superstar or we think he sucks. When the reality is like, I don't know, man, at pick 43, going next to Xavier Worthy and Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, like I don't think he needs to be a superstar at that price. And what if he is? That sounds pretty good. Marv's game is a bad fit with Kyler Murray. I have a serious question. I've heard people say this, and I don't disagree. Is anyone's game a good fit with Kyler Murray? Is anyone, like, seriously, who is a good fit with Kyler Murray? Because a lot of the flaws that you'll hear about Kyler, right? He's little. It's tough to throw over the middle when you're 5'9". Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't really go over the middle last year. He's a boundary wide receiver who's like elite from a contested catch. He's like a modern day DeAndre Hopkins or whatever, maybe more gifted. So like, who is a good fit? I think the problem is Kyler. McBride's a good fit, except McBride doesn't score touchdowns because of Kyler. Because Kyler can't see him. He has to be really far away for Kyler to see him. When there's all those guys in the way, Kyler can't see anybody in the end zone. James Conner is a good fit. Trey Benson is a good fit. Is Kyler the worst QB pick on the board? No. He plays the Bengals in week 17, brother. You can't. It's not possible. It's not possible to be the worst QB click on the board. I think I would draft Bryce Young at Kyler's cost on at least a sliver of teams if he was playing the Bengals in week 17. It's just Coors Field. It's like if you play MLB DFS, you have to juice up the Coors Field pricing, and the Bengals are Coors Field. Like Luis Rise is $6,000 on DraftKings in Coors Field, and sometimes you got to just do it. Right? William Contreras, catcher for the Milwaukee Brewers, is a really good hitter. Is he worth $6,500? Is he worth, like, should you pay a Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge price for William Contreras in Coors? It feels bad, but it's Coors Field, man. It's the Rockies. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet. That's how I feel about Kyler Murray. I don't love him at all, but we got to do what we got to do sometimes. Interesting. Let's do Tyrone Tracy. How about that? The old Tracy Genty week 17 correlation that I don't have. Mason and Hawk go. I could backdoor Baker stack. I don't have a quarterback right. Yeah. No, let's do Keon again here. Let's do Keon. Just a really good fit on pretty, I don't have superstar wide receivers. And then I also did take Rashid, who I am going to miss 6 games from. So I want to kind of get, obviously, Pearsall, these guys are going to have early season production. Pearsall, J-Mo, T-Mac. But Keon can help with that. And he can be the perfect combination of upside swing plus getting some production to start the year when needed with Rashid. I do agree, though, that Kyler, the price feels a little bit awkward given it. I just think that the quarterbacks like in that whole range are like, whatever. We can change the order from Baker to like Lawrence is like 50 picks. And so Lawrence feels like the better pick. But like, it doesn't really matter. The difference between the pick 90 guy and the pick 130 guy are actually not that much. And so that's why the guys that go at pick 90, or pick 100, like Kyler does, feel like shitty picks. But it just like really doesn't matter. And that sounds crazy. It's like, it depends on, did you take Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison? Well, then Kyler's a better pick. Did you take Jamar Chase? Kyler's a better pick. Did you take Cortland Sutton? Bo Nix is a better pick. Did you take Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter? Well, Trevor Lawrence is a better pick because this team requires, a big season and a particularly big games at the right times from those specific players. So the quarterbacks are just like, outside of a select few, mainly the superstars, they're just like the finishing piece to the they're the last page of the story book or whatever. Is there hope for Kyler in Dynasty? Like he's gonna turn into a star? I don't think so. Can he be fine for your Dynasty team? Yeah. Just got to make the championship and then he'll be useful against the Bengals. The worst pick on the board is obviously Shipley, says C-Spot Run. What's the Robert De Niro? Oh, you. Good try. On that topic, oh God, rank your top 5 Week 17 game environments. One of my macro level strategies to be within this year, focusing on my top 5 games rather than specific players. So this is a fair idea. The counterpoint would be we're really, really bad at predicting what the best game environments are. And even bad game environments can produce, right? Like Browns, we've made this like Browns Jets a couple of years ago was the absolute nuts. And it was horrible. It looked horrible when we were drafting. It looked like truly the worst game environment of Week 17. And then even before, like the day of the game, the total was like 37. But it produced, right? That was the year Karain won Best Ball Mania. And Breece Hall was in that game and just an absolute smash. And the Browns were fantasy. That was the year they made the playoffs. Joe Flacco. Anyway, not important. We're not great at predicting the game environments. That being said, any Bengals game is always number one. Slam dunk number one. Bengals. They're the course field. The rest of the games I got to think about. I'm gonna go Commanders, Cowboys. This is I'm riffing. So if I reserve the right to change this, and this is not in any particular order. Commanders, Cowboys, both good offenses. Commanders defense is okay. Cowboys defense is stinky. Let's see. Jaguars, Colts. 2 bad defenses to 1 fun offense. 1.5. 1.5 fun offenses. All right. Does this guy have a tight end or quarterback? What's the guy at the turn got here? He has Daniels and Hawk. Let's do Love. I'm trying to set up Lovell and Caleb here. Would be the goal. Have Ricky Pearsall on the other side of that Week 17 game. That's one that I think is underrated. San Francisco and Chicago. I'm not sure if it makes it into the top 5, but it is in the mix. I think both offenses could be pretty awesome, and I think the San Francisco defense is going to take a pretty significant step back this year. It's in San Francisco, which is a little bit better than in Chicago. Thinking. Here's the most underrated one. Titans, Saints. That is the bad team shootout of the week. That is the Saints are an absolute disaster, and Cam Ward throws 2 touchdowns to Alec Iomanor, 1 to Chigakonkwo, and 1 to Calvin Ridley or whatever. And Chris Olave is actually playing. No, he did not get another concussion, but Alvin Kamara is not, and Kendre Miller is this year's Rashad Penny. I'm just making shit up, but that game is like the Saints are just that bad. The Saints could it's the Saints. If the Saints offense is really good, which seems rather unlikely with their quarterback play, but Kellen Moore plus the weaponry that they have, I think that they could score some points if Rattler or Shuck are not bad. But that seems like a tall task to accomplish competent quarterback play with those two guys competing for the job. Obviously, Rattler having won the week 1 job. But if they can score some points, they could be like baby Coors Field, not real Coors Field, because the reason why it's not just the defense for the Bengals. It is the fact that the defense is so bad and the offense is going to definitely score points. They're going to be aggressive and they're going to throw the football. So they're going to push you to score and you're going to be able to do it because their defense stinks. The Saints defense is going to stink, but can the offense force you to score? That remains to be seen. Vikings, Lions definitely could go nuclear. I agree. Our generation's Jets, Browns. There we go. The problem with Vikings, Lions, I always struggle with. So this is why when we talk about the week 7 to like name your favorite games or whatever, there will be a hefty total on that game. Of course, those two offenses are probably going to rock for sure. But I also think both, like the Vikings have one of the better defenses in the league. The Lions defense last year pre-injuries was awesome. And so like you have this, this counterbalance of, yep, the game could be pretty awesome because the offenses are pretty awesome, but also this isn't the Bengals defense. These are two good defenses, and good offense beats good defense, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of the game environment, it can be a little tricky if the defenses are very good, right? That's been right. People say that about the Ravens, where we're like, we can't just say, like, I didn't say the Ravens. Nobody says Ravens games are the best game environment, but they have the most efficient offense in the league, right? Nobody says Chiefs. But a few years ago, it would have been Chiefs because they had the best offense. But we tend to gravitate to the best offenses. But I tend to gravitate to the worst defenses, which doesn't mean that that's right, but that's where my head often goes. Goff shreds. Flores seems to have our number. I wouldn't worry too much about Jared Goff in big games. I think that was also Ben Johnson and the Lions have Brian Flores' number. Get the ball out quick, avoid the blitz. Historically, Jared Goff has been terrible against the blitz. Seattle, Carolina, top 3 sneaky. I agree. Carolina is another potential. Carolina is like the Saints, but I think the defense could be a little bit better. And but the offense is actually one I'm intrigued by. Okay, did Sampson get back here? Thank God. Can actually get Dylan Sampson here. That gives me 4 running backs. I got Caleb Loveland. Okay. I need to look at quarterback here. Speaking of those stacks we were talking about. Herbert, Stroud, Lawrence, Penix, Tua, Bryce, Cam Ward. Wow, Mooney at 134, and I think I'm going to pass still. That seems bad. Let's do Trey Benson. I want to take one of these little bit later quarterbacks. Cam Ward, honestly, I should have more. I should have more Cam Ward, but I would be also open to Sam Darnold. I would be open to Geno Smith, and of course Bryce Young. I have T-Mac. So I don't build this way a ton. As I mentioned, I've been like really just solidifying my quarterbacks, drafting a bunch of elite quarterbacks, using the later rounds for these wide receiver and running back values, and to a lesser extent, tight end values that are here right now. But building something a little bit different here will be fun. Yeah. Martin says this shouldn't be sneaky, but I don't hear that many people talking about Green Bay and Baltimore. That one is one I really like, and we'll see. I haven't looked at my week 17 exposure and draft IQ. We can do that in a little bit. But I don't expect, right? Like, it's hard to separate things that are possible, things that you're like, this is interesting. This could be possible, but it's also not the most likely outcome. The most likely outcome is that both of those defenses are solid. But also the most likely outcome is that both those offenses are good and that the Ravens offense in particular is fucking awesome. The Packers defense is a little bit thin in the secondary. I've made this reference a lot. He's just a backup. It's not that big of a deal. But they moved a guy who's been playing wide receiver for this team for 2 seasons, and I thought was kind of good as an NFL wide receiver. Bo Melton, another Rutgers player, lots of Kyle Monangai, Isaiah Pacheco. Nobody puts more guys in the pros from shit ass teams than Rutgers University. Bo Melton was like a decent NFL wide receiver. They moved him to corner. He hasn't played since high school. Cornerback. He made the team as their second string corner. Now, props to him, first of all. That's incredible. At the NFL level, to change positions back to something you haven't played in a long time and be good enough at it to make the team is great. They had wide receiver depth. I'm not sure they have a bunch of firepower, but then, of course, Jaden Reed gets hurt. Dontavian Wicks gets hurt. And now maybe they wish Bo Melton was playing wide receiver. But anyway, that to me is a pretty clear indication. Like, they're counting on veterans like Nate Hobbs. I think they're going to be fine. But it's fragile. If we have a converted wide receiver starting at corner in week 17 against Lamar and Zay Flowers, that seems like fun, and if the Packers get forced to throw, we've seen Jordan Love go straight YOLO right in second halves and score a bunch of points. The Packers need to be forced to throw. If there's anything we learned last year, Matt LaFleur is probably going to ride Josh Jacobs a little bit harder than we hope for. As non-Josh Jacobs drafters, if you love Josh Jacobs, then it's exactly what you hope for. But I think the Ravens are a pretty interesting team that could force them into a lot more passing, and all of a sudden that game looks a lot more fun than expectation. So I'm totally with you. Packers defense stinks, but if they get Micah Parsons, they could be okay. I don't think it stinks, but I do think it's vulnerable this year. But yes, if they get Micah Parsons, that would be good. That guy's good at football, Micah Parsons. The playoffs just a crapshoot anyway. You need the chalk that hits that gets you there, and or you need really lucky pod variants, like the year that, like I told you, when I got top 10 with the team I talked, Pickens and DK Metcalf and Lamar and HN and Kyron and such. I didn't have Gino with Genty or backstack Sam Darnold, or take Gino. Let's do Gino. And I would love Dante Thornton here. There we go. So Gino, Genty, Dante Thornton, Caleb plus Loveland, Pearsall on the other side, Tyrone Tracy on the other side of Field. Nothing quite says I'm going to win week 17 like Gino with a running back, Dante Thornton, and Tyrone Tracy game stack. But it is week 17 correlation technically. 2, 5, 6, 1 with Genty, JT, Tyrone Tracy, Dylan Sampson, and Trey Benson. I'm in a spot where I can go to 6 running backs if I want. I'm light at tight end with just Loveland. So I like locking down my 2 quarterbacks. I'll stick with. I like to live. I just rewatched Austin Powers the other day. While I was working, and put it on in the background. I'll stay. I too like to live dangerously with Caleb Williams and Geno Smith as my only quarterbacks. I know. Why don't you take a third? There's 20 rounds. I get it. But I crave the firepower to win the flex. And I built my team around Gino and Caleb anyway. Yeah, anyway, you need to have the guys that help get you to right, which is like who went ham in week 15 or 16. A couple of years ago, Zay Jones, like 3 years ago or something like that. Zay Jones on the Jaguars goes nuts for like 30. Evan Ingram did it also, I believe, on the Jaguars. Like the random guys that go nuts, Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, George Pickens, whoever, you probably need some of them to help you get there, or you need really good pod luck like I had, where there was only it's 1 out of 16 advance to week 17 in Best Ball Mania on Underdog, and I had a pod with only 2 Amari Cooper teams the year he went for 50 in my week 16 pod, and they were both pretty bad teams. I think one like didn't have a quarterback or something like that, and so I just got lucky. And that's the beauty of this game is I got to the final. I did not have Amari Cooper, who was 50. Amari Cooper was 50% owned that year. He was the highest owned play. He was like, that was the Flacco year, right? Yeah, that was the Flacco year. Amari was like fine pick. He was like a 5th round pick. He was fine. Like he had an okay season. Nobody looks back from a season long perspective and ever remembers Amari Cooper unless you're a best ball bro. Because you were like, well, I had these awesome teams that made it to week 16 and they all got fucking buried by Amari goddamn Cooper dropping 50 in a game. And it's like, that's just how this game goes. It giveth and it taketh away. But that's the fun. And then you get to the final and you're able to get there, right? Wow, what good luck. No Amari Cooper. And Amari didn't play in week 17. He got hurt. He was hurt. The 50% owned guy that got everyone to the final didn't even play in week 17. So if you were able to luck your way there, right? That's the beauty of it. That's why I was able to do well, as everybody else had Amari Cooper and I had George Pickens. I escaped the Amari game. Also had awesome round 2 Pollard leverage on chalk CD, which looked cool until CD housed the 90-yard touchdown, says Rohim. Amen to that, brother. I had second round. I had Amon-Ra. So the chalkiest, it was CD, Amon-Ra, and Amari Cooper. CD, Amon-Ra at the 1-2 turn, and then Amari Cooper in the 5th round or whatever. 1 second. Okay, let's do. Should I now let's do IO Manor here. And then I'm going to do Coker again. We'll see if any of these other wide receivers make it back. Nope. There goes Troy Franklin. Snap call straight to the podium from the 110. Okay, Troy Franklin ain't going to make it back. He wasn't going to make it back anyway, but a boy can dream. But yeah, that year was nuts. It was really condensed around the 1-2. So CMC was at the 101. That it was basically, did you have CMC or did you have CD Amon-Ra at the 1-2 turn? If you were able to get something slightly different, what actually won was CD and Devontae Adams. This was Raiders Devontae Adams. He, I believe, was the wide receiver 2 on the week. He scored 30-something. Amon-Ra was fine. Like, you could have won with Amon-Ra, but he was just like fine. He had a solid game. It wasn't like we always look back and we're like, oh yeah, you had to have CD Amon-Ra. I was like, no, you had to have CD. You didn't have to have Amon-Ra. He was just fine. I had Amon-Ra, but I also had Jalen Waddle. So you want to talk about leverage? Everybody else had like 40% owned CeeDee Lamb, 50% owned Amari Cooper, or Christian McCaffrey. I have Amon-Ra, who was popular, but not as much as CD, and like 5% Jalen Waddle, and that fucker didn't play. Jalen Waddle didn't play. So I didn't even have my second round pick on that team. They got top 10 in Best Ball Mania. I didn't even have my second round pick. I didn't have CeeDee Lamb, who went for 50. And we still navigated our way up there. The power of zero running back, by the way. But it was like, God, so close yet so far. Like if CD is on that team, I win Best Ball Mania. If I have CD over Jalen Waddle, CD was not available. I went back and looked. People will ask, like, why didn't you just take CD Amon-Ra? It's like somebody else took CD. And then I scrolled down a little bit to get a unique Amon-Ra team. I specifically remember like that whole summer of being like, I'm going to go get me some Jalen Waddle to pair with CD or with Amon-Ra or whatever, because everybody's doing CD Amon-Ra. And in that draft that I was in, it's like CD went 110 or 111, and I had the 112, and I took Amon-Ra and Waddle. It was fun. Like I had Laporta, I had Lamar, we had Zay, we had Achane, we had Kyron. We had like Achane, Kyron was like an absolute smash that year, right? Lamar was a smash, et cetera, et cetera. But we got there without Lamar. It was like everything you want to happen. Check, checking all these boxes. And then it's just, damn it. Got the leverage, got everything. And then it doesn't fucking matter because the mega chalk guy went for 40. All this talk about Amari Cooper, and he fits your game stack. I'm not drafting Amari Cooper. I'll tell you that right now. I remember that year, says Sizzle. I had Watson. Oh, man. The old Watson Cooper stack, and that team made the finals with no quarterback. That's how dominant Cooper was in week 16. Exactly. The year before that, if you want to talk about more, we're reminiscing. We reminisced on net teller days. We got to reminisce about best ball finals. Or best ball playoffs. The year before that, I think, was the first year that Jalen Hurts just went absolutely nuclear with the Eagles. He was like a 7th round pick. How foolish it seems. Like once upon a time in Best Ball Mania 1, Josh Allen was like a 7th round pick. You could get Allen Diggs at like the 6-7 turn years ago. Same thing, Jalen Hurts, you could get in like round 7 that year. Jalen Hurts, people like worry about the quarterback stuff like crazy. Hold on, holding. Let's do Jatavian Sanders. Go build out the Carolina. Don't have to have Bryce Young to build the Carolina stack. T-Mac, Coker, Jatavian Sanders with no Seattle on the other side. That's okay. As you guys know, I love stacking without the quarterback just as much as stacking with the quarterback. I only have Colston Loveland at tight end, and I would imagine you probably know who I'm thinking about targeting here for our tight end 3. Yes, of course, Mr. Harold Fannin in round 18. 2 more picks of DK Milly 149. Built a different team for me, of course. Ashton Genty, Jonathan Taylor, Teteroa McMillan, Jamison Williams, Ricky Pearsall, Rashee Rice, Tyrone Tracy, Keon Coleman, Colston Loveland, stacked with Caleb Williams, Dylan Sampson, my guy, Flagplant Sisson, Trey Benson. Also, love me some Trey Benson. Shout out to Rob Coakley here at Spike Week, the biggest Trey Benson stan that there is. Geno Smith with Dante Thornton, and of course, Ashton Genty in round 1. Excuse me, Alec Iomanner, Jalen Coker, and then Jatavian Sanders and Harold Fannin. Pretty fun team. But so that year, Jalen Hurts wins all the money. Here's how powerful Jalen Hurts was and why we worry too much about having a million quarterbacks on your roster and such. Is that year, this dude, Jalen Hurts, missed at least week 17, maybe week 16. Also, he missed week 16 and 17. I can look it up later. In 2022 or whatever it was. Jalen Hurts is the smash of all smashes. If you want to win total points, right? If you wanted to win the drafters main event that year, you had to have Jalen Hurts. He was a slam dunk smash. The guy who won total points, right? We do all this talk about you got to draft a million quarterbacks. The guy who won beat 100,000 teams, total points over the course of the entire season with Jalen Hurts and Zach Wilson, New York Jets Zach Wilson, who got benched immediately that year, never contributed a point to the team. The guy essentially played with 19 players and only one quarterback, and that quarterback missed the final 2 weeks of the season. He took a 0 in week 16 and 17 at quarterback and won the drafters main event. That's when you nail absolutely everything in that season. That was the Cooper Kupp year, the Mark Andrews year. Obviously the Eagles were way too cheap. Like, he nailed all of that different stuff, but like, that's how crazy this game is. You can win in so many different ways, and we are so confident when we know, like, everybody, like, the first question someone asked, like, I got asked this the other day by someone that doesn't play NFL basketball, doesn't really follow NFL, that I work with at Rotogrinders, and was like, the first question, and this is not like a flaw in people's, but this is just how people think about things. Like, how many of each position do I take? Is like the number one question that everybody asks. And it's like, the real answer, it depends. The real answer to like all of those questions is like, it depends. Which quarterback did you take? Which tight end did you take? How many rounds? Who did you take in the first 8 rounds? What's the rest of your portfolio look like? Is this the only team you're going to draft, or are you drafting 1,500 teams like I'm drafting? Right? How often are our opponents drafting 3 quarterback teams versus 2 versus 4 versus 1? Are you drafting Daniel Jones? Okay, that's very different from drafting Jalen Hurts. It's like, it's crazy. Okay, 15 seconds. I need to make sure to get someone in the queue that I don't absolutely fucking hate. Here's a guy that oh no. Jordan Whittington. And then we're going to do how about some good old-fashioned KaVontae Turpin for good measure. Wide receiver 10, KaVontae Turpin. Give me some spike weeks while Rashee Rice is not playing. All right, we went 2, 5, 10, 3 on this team, number 149, and then we'll hop into number 150. Ashton Genty, Jonathan Taylor, Tetaroa McMillan, Jamison Williams, Ricky Pearsall, Rashee Rice, Tyrone Tracy, Keon Coleman, Colston Loveland, Caleb Williams, of course, stacked. Dylan Sampson, Trey Benson, Geno Smith, Dante Thornton, Alec Iomanor, Jalen Coker, Jatavian Sanders, Harold Fannin, and we polished it up with 2 very last round players in Jordan Whittington and KaVontae Turpin. All right, guys, let's do number 150 here, shall we? 150. Oh, god damn it. We need 10 spots. No Elijah Arroyo for the bring back. We do not draft Elijah Arroyo over Harold Fannin in this house. I don't care about the bring back. We don't draft Elijah Arroyo over Harold Fannin in this house, and we definitely don't draft them over Jatavian Sanders either. Are you doing any Flacco in these? No, not for me. But I get it. But my I keep talking about the later round values, specifically at wide receiver, but also at the other positions, the Fannins, the Jatavian Sanders, the Shipleys, the Keatons, whatever. The value is there. I don't want to. I'm not swimming in the shit quarterback waters. That's just my plan of attack. Doesn't mean you can't. Doesn't mean that those guys, right? But like, I just can't fathom taking on the risk of Daniel Jones when I can draft Troy Franklin, starting wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, when I can draft Jalen Coker or Isaac Tesla or something like that. Like, I don't want to be drafting those guys, those quarterbacks with that level. Like, what do I win with Daniel Jones when there's all of these other values available? Like, I'm using Jones, Flacco, Shuck, those guys, Aaron Rodgers, quite frankly, Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart. You could maybe, I guess, but I don't know. I just give me 2 quarterbacks by Cam Ward or Geno or whatever. I'm like, cool, I'm done. Realistically speaking, not everyone has a spare 3,000. It definitely says Trey. How many entries do you think you could enter into the Milly draft and still compete? So one of my favorite, this is a great question. And one of my absolutely favorite things about best ball is I don't think it matters how many entries you put in terms of to compete. Of course, it's great to have the extra teams, but if you're like, right, so I have 60% Will Shipley. If Will Shipley gets hurt tomorrow, right, knock on wood, if Will Shipley gets hurt tomorrow, I bet like your 10 teams now or whatever, or your 5 teams now are plus EV. If you're like, you can, this isn't like DFS. Like everybody, like all these players are drafted in, 75% of these players are drafted in every single draft, and they're only drafted on 1 out of every 12 teams. It's a snake draft. It's random. You don't get to go into like a DFS slate and make like if I want to zero a guy and then also play 100% of a player, like in tonight college football DFS, if I want to play 100% of CJ Bailey, the NC State quarterback, like I can do so and no one can stop me. So my edge is in determining how much of each player to play, who to pair with those players. There's a little bit of that in best ball, but I don't get to it. It's predetermined by the best ball gods of how much of one, right? How much Jamar Chase am I going to get? I don't know. I don't get to choose. So I don't think you're at an inherent disadvantage by playing fewer entries, like in some of these, the other people may be more likely to win because they have more entries, but your 10 are not at a disadvantage against the field. You're playing against your 11 people in this original, pod, this first round pod. And then from then on, you're just in these little groups and, you have a lesser chance to make it to week 17 just because you drafted fewer teams, but not because you're at a disadvantage because I have more than you. That's not, I don't really have that advantage. I spent more money is what it means. I have a greater chance because I spent more money. It doesn't mean that like I have an advantage over you with the 150. The 109. So we got 2 111s and a 109 here in our final 3 drafts. I would love to get Malik Neighbors on this team if whoever is next to me would let him go, please. Woohoo. Neighbors. I think that officially makes Neighbors my highest owned first rounder and highest owned over higher owned than Puka as well here. So nice to get some Neighbors. Do we know how often early drafted teams win versus late drafted teams? I think it's like historically been like a lot of July teams, if I remember correctly. But like we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It just like doesn't. You could draft a winning team right now today. You could draft the winning team next Thursday. It is always possible for you to draft the winning team because there's actually a lot more permutations of what can win than people think. So I just don't care about like what team won. I really don't. We will absolutely sprint to the fucking podium to take Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. here. Shout out to Cam. I think it was a sharp team. It's a good move. AJ Brown, Brock Bowers, the 1-2 turn. I've done that once or twice, but I don't. I don't hate the fact that it allowed Brian Thomas Jr. to get back to me here with Malik Neighbors. But it's a great question, Spiz. It's one team every single season. They just happen to get the right lottery numbers together on the right team. Did it matter whether it was in June or July or August? I don't think so. Sure thing, Trey. Thank you for the great question. This is what I will say, as Donnie says here, another one of my if it were me and I didn't have the bankroll to play 100, to play a bunch of teams, and I were looking how to get I got a few $100 or something like that I want to toss at this thing, right? Go donate blood a couple times over the course of the summer, get yourself a few $100, and that you're going to spend that on Underdog or DraftKings or Drafters. First of all, I would spend it on DraftKings and Drafters. Was where I would spend it. No offense to Underdog, they rock, except for this all Skip Bayless, Gilbert Arenas thing. it's questionable behavior. But DraftKings is where the softest rooms are. Also, there's a question on that. I'll hit that too. DraftKings is where the softest rooms are. Drafters is the most plus EV tournaments to play because like their $20 and stuff doesn't fill. They give away a ton of free tickets, etc. So that's where I would play. But then I would play the lowest stakes that I could and draft as many teams as I could. I do think that the best way to play it from your own individual perspective, both from like a monetary EV and from like a life EV and a fun EV, is to get as many teams as you can. Drafters has $2 tournaments. DraftKings has $1 tournaments. There's a bunch of stuff you can play. There's the $3 20 max, which is like one of the best tournaments. Drafters has a $3 out there right now. DraftKings still has the $3. I believe they call it the play action in best ball too. It's $3. And if you want to get away from the 150 maxers, it's a 20 max tournament. So no one can draft more than 20 teams. I only have 20 teams. You only have 20 teams, and it only costs $60. So there's a bunch of options to get more teams in, no matter what your bankroll is. So that's what I would do if it were me, right? If I had $100 to spend, I'd definitely play that $3 20 max. I'd play Drafters had a $2 tournament before. I would have played that, et cetera, et cetera. No offense, but your rationalization of lesser entries not being a disadvantage defies all rules of foundation of basement algebra specifically. That's fine. I probably didn't phrase it appropriately. I didn't mean to say that you're not at a disadvantage. I actually literally said that other people are more likely to win than you are. But your teams are not at a disadvantage. You're not playing against the 150 maxers. If that makes sense. You are Kittle or Lamar. Let's do Lamar. So you are mathematically less likely to win the tournament. Yes. You are not at a disadvantage against the 150 maxers because you are not playing against the 150 maxers. You're playing against 11 people, and then you're playing against another 11 people in week 15, and then you're playing against another 11 people in week 16. You are at a disadvantage because you only have a certain number of teams. You are not at a disadvantage against me. Like us competing against one another. I'm in best ball. By spending more money, I'm just more likely to lose money than you are, because we're all just likely to lose this money that goes into it. I probably did not say that appropriately, and it was not meant as a rationalization. I think I just truly believe that it like play entry. I don't think you should sit out just because you can't 150 max was the point, if that makes sense. Lamar neighbors. Let's do worthy. I don't know if I have a Lamar and Mahomes team. So I'm interested in possibly a little double elite-ish quarterback there. Yeah, that's what I definitely just probably didn't phrase it appropriately. I definitely did not mean and try to rationalize. Warehouse says, I love drafters. I think I'll do the big board and then switch to drafters and DraftKings next year. Dude, drafters rocks. That sucker ain't going to fill in the drafters main event. And now I think these DraftKings tournaments are going to fill. But right, it's just these other sites have, Underdog has an incredible menu of tournaments to play. I do enjoy their app when it's been a little buggier this summer, but it's a great drafting experience, and it's quicker, right? With 20 seconds, 18 rounds. There's a lot of great perks of Underdog, and we would not be here. I would not be here if it weren't for Underdog. Like, forever grateful to them for giving us this hobby, giving me this career essentially. But there's something that DraftKings offers that just Underdog can't offer in terms of the those softer rooms, which damn it, I'll remember. I got to go back to that question. The drafter stuff is like, honestly, just about every dollar you put onto drafters, you're like getting $1 and a couple cents back, because the tournaments just like don't fill. It's total points. Their drafting app, especially if you're like multi-tabling or doing slow drafts, is awesome. the way that I literally have my phone right in front of me with drafters up because I'm making slow draft picks periodically during this, so I don't time out. But like, there's just some stuff that the other sites offer that Underdog doesn't. I personally prefer full PPR, but that's just a personal preference in scoring. I also personally prefer 20 rounds to 18. So again, those are just my personal preferences. Doesn't mean that those are right, but that's how I sort of think about it. Oh, Spiz, I didn't see the Islanders. You know who I think of when I think of the Islanders? This is also going to age me, but I think of the Entourage Boys. Turtle E, etc. Finding Value says thoughts on price change, Rice price change, and think he should go higher, even though he's going to go lower. Yeah, I think he should go with the 4 or 5 turn. So like, it's legitimately possible I take him here as an example. We'll see. But he also has been falling back to this 64 spot. So like, I'm trying to get some of these Mahomes Rice teams, but also just Rice teams. I agree. I think he should go higher now that we know, because his suspension is at the time when it's easiest to field points and backfill those points with, it just, there's a million guys that are going to play early. Both, okay, dude, Zay Rice here would be, oh, is Rice gone? No. Okay, I was about to say, this would be the dream. He's probably going to go now because I'm talking about it. Spiz is right here, and Cam seems to be a spike week level drafter. Level is not the right word. I don't know if that's good or bad. Being spike week level, being spike week brained drafter with the unique start and some of these specific targets. But Spiz, don't do it. Spiz, don't do it. You can't afford to have Rasheed. Woohoo! I'm just kidding, obviously. But through 6 rounds, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Lamar Jackson, Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers. So Lamar, Zay. We got the potential Mahomes double. We'll see. And the beauty of the Chiefs thing is, like, if Mahomes doesn't make it back, it's okay. And I have Lamar Jackson. I don't really need Mahomes. Roheen said, okay, hold on. I forget who it was that asked, and I really need to go back because I apologize. It was a great question, and I try to hit literally. If you're here and you want to come hang out when we get to the season, you want to talk ball, you want to just talk ball, you want to talk DFS, you got a question about a player, I try to answer literally every question in the chat. Sometimes, we overlook things, but if you post a question in the chat, I try to answer it. That's what I'm here to do, to talk to you guys, not just I already ramble enough as it is. Oh, here we go. Perfect. For best ball, shout out to you. Can you explain the softer rooms? Isn't it better to draft against experienced players that stay in their lane versus a bunch of new, drunk, wild drafters that will randomly take players? That part is a little bit true. It is nice when everyone stays in their lane, but if the players you're competing against are more skilled and not making mistakes, building better teams, it's harder to advance. And you're also not going to get some insane ADP fallers will happen in these rooms because there's some people that just I'm never taking a rookie, right? Never taking a rookie. So you'll get the rookie that falls, or they get a Q tag, right? What happens on DraftKings a lot is some guy gets a questionable tag or an out tag. And the bad drafters who don't understand that is like an out tag in June, and he's not he's just sitting out practicing mini camp. Who gives a shit? They'll oh no, he's hurt, I can't draft him, right? I couldn't draft that guy that says he's out, or he is actually hurt, but it's fine. He's going to be back, whatever. He's fine for week 1. The bad drafters will avoid those guys. And so being in the rooms with those guys will help you build better teams, and competing against the worst players will help you advance more teams. So they may hurt you occasionally in that room, right? this person, I'm not saying that they so Mahomes goes. Just like a team takes, like it was totally fine for them to take Mahomes. This is not me. Oh, you sniped me, bro. Like, it's not really a thing. But the guys that don't stay in their lane sometimes can screw up teams that you have, set something up. But, it's also on you. Go take the guys if you set something up and you're counting on someone to come back at ADP, that's like on you. So I want to play the number one most important thing from a financial expected value, right? People toss around the term EV all the time, and we say it for roster construction and archetypes of players and all this bullshit. The number one most important factor from an EV and how much you should expect the value of your teams to be is how bad are your opponents versus how good are your opponents. If you're going against the best players, your EV is going to be lower. If you're going against the worst players, your EV is going to be higher. That's like, generally speaking, the best rule from an EV perspective. That's hilarious. E. Wardenberg, honored to draft with you in your final DK Milly. Good luck this year. Good luck to you too. Shout out for getting in this draft. Hopefully you're not whoever stole Patrick Mahomes. But I can settle for Chris Olave. What a great pairing, by the way. Chris Olave with Rashee Rice. Don't have to count on Chris Olave staying healthy forever on the New Orleans Saints. I think of Rick DiPietro. There's one. And the 15-year contract with the Island. Best part of Entourage was E's Islanders poster. That is great. I loved Entourage. We used to get together, speaking of those old days, around the exact same time that I was using NetTeller to deposit on 5 dimes, we would get together, so this is like, there was no streaming and Netflix was just, I don't even think Netflix was around yet. But eventually Netflix, right, became the DVD mail-in company. How about Hawk? How about a little TJ Hawkinson for once? I don't do that very often. But we used to get together, group of all my friends, and we would rotate we went to somebody's house on Sunday nights to watch HBO. And not all of us had it. These are the days of dial-up internet. We had dial-up internet. You had to get on the my very first cell phone. You had to get on the internet to send a text message, and they were really expensive. And I remember running up the bill one time with my parents, and I got into major trouble. But we would rotate around, right? Because we had to watch the HBO stuff, and it was like, if you didn't watch it live, like they might replay it later at a different time. But there was you couldn't just like go, and the DVDs weren't out yet, right? We used to buy all the DVDs. We used to go to Blockbuster to rent stuff, but we also went to Blockbuster. They would sell their old DVDs, for $5 or something like that, or like 3 for $20 or whatever it was. 3 for $20 if it was $5. Certainly, my math ain't mathin' today, as per the earlier discussion. But you know what I mean. You like, I just have. I still somewhere, I think, have a bunch of these DVDs around the house. But I definitely own every season of Entourage on DVD. But we would go on Sunday nights, like I said, rotating houses. 1 week we could go to this guy's house, next week we could go to this girl's house, this next week go to my house, whatever, to watch Entourage and whatever else. There were different times where they would show different stuff on Sundays. I forget what the shows were around that time. What a hilarious post. Just coming in. This is like, have the Twitter bots made it into the low level niche best ball draft streams? Like any post has the some crypto wallet address. That's funny. You just made me feel old as shit. I feel simultaneously super young every single day because I'm still a child. I I tell the same fucking jokes I did when I was younger, which is also what also simultaneously makes me feel old. I say the same stuff and tell the same stories. I feel very young still at certain times, and then I feel very old at others. Like when we tell Net Teller and Entourage and dial up internet stories, and like I still stay pretty active. I go to the gym and play a good amount of basketball. Which, by the way, if we ever do a get together for the best ball community, we're absolutely having a pickup basketball game and maybe a 3-point contest or something, because I'm the self-proclaimed best shooter in all of best ball. I would almost go so far as to guarantee it that nobody can outshoot me in basketball. It's the one thing I can still do. Speaking of being old, I can't run around. I can't. I'm not in that good of shape, and I have a terrible back. But oh no, I sat here all day talking about how good the wide receiver values are later, and now I'm gonna draft this goddamn 0 running back team. Roheen, I'm in. I love a fellow sniper. I love a fellow sniper. Yeah, there you go. Did you all ever end up in a real sex episode together? No, we did not. But that is another hilarious callback to that generation. Because, like, again, we're venturing into very dangerous territories, as you said. Do not elaborate. But here's what I will say: to be careful. But you know how it was. We all do. Like I said, for my whole youth, like the internet was just like we had AOL Instant Messenger, AIM, and that's how we all communicated with our friends. When I was in high school, AIM was the big thing. But at my house, we had dial-up internet, so you had to get on. You took up the phone line, and again, this was pre-cell phone. Nobody had cell phones. You had to, if you wanted to talk to somebody, you had to call their house phone. You had to memorize everybody's home numbers. So the modern advancements in what we use the internet for, I don't know if this is an advancement. This might be a step back. But the things that we use the internet for now, particularly the most popular thing that the world uses the internet for. Hold on. McCarthy's gone? What the fuck? You know what? This is my last team. We cannot let it go without Dylan Sampson. We also, I've let these teams go without Will Shipley. But anyway, the most frequented sites on the internet in modern times are, of the inappropriate variety. And back then, when you had to use the phone line to get on the internet, and you had to use this big old, desktop computer with a big monitor and the big hard drive and all that kind of stuff. If a young kid in puberty wanted to partake in, some of the dark areas of the early internet, it wasn't something you could just do. Mom and dad had to be gone, whatever. So things like Real Sex on HBO, were like, oh my God, this is the thing. Yeah. Dark times. What a life we lived. Truly a day. That's so good. ASL. Oh God, 28 male. I forgot about that one. Net zero. As soon as oh my God. No incognito windows. You didn't know about clearing browser search history and oh God. Yeah, I know CSU can shoot. I'll go to battle with My puberty was built on taxi cab confessions. I'll have to. So, Consigliere says Mike Zakarian. I love Mike. We've done some playoff best ball for NBA content together, and I very much participate in the NBA best ball streets. We'll actually definitely be doing some shows. I'll have to talk to Mike, and we can figure out a way to do some NBA best ball content, but also do some figure out a way to have some shooting contests somehow. 3-on-3. Yeah, my problem with 3-on-3 is I don't have the greatest wind. I have a bad back and bad ankle, so like running and stuff like that is not a like running distance. But one game, we're good. I'm confident in the one game. If we got to hold the court down, that becomes a little bit of an issue. That's fine. Oh man, this is what it's yeah. Dude, there's nothing better than just being nostalgic about all the stupid shit. It's the best. What do you want to talk about? Nick Chubb versus Damian Pierce? Like, come on. Let's wait at quarterback, and let's do tank. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Lamar Jackson, Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Rasheed Rice, Chris Olave, TJ Hawkinson, Javonte Williams, Dylan Sampson, and Tank Bigsby. But I obviously needed some early season running back production. That's theoretically what Javonte, Dylan Sampson, and Tank Bigsby do for this team. What would you say you do here, Javonte Williams? It's score a non-zero amount of points in the beginning of the season at running back. Oh my God. Cam just took Will Shipley at 132 out of the 112. So I guess I'm not getting my Will Shipley exposure went down today. That's not very fun. What's quarterback looking like? Herbert. I could backstack Herbert. I really don't have enough Herbert at all. But running back, I'm kind of cool at running back. Do you think Royals is draftable in the 20th with the Rice news? You bet your ass he is. 100%. I'm gonna take. I know Herbert's unstacked, but I think that's okay. I'm fine with unstacked Herbert if I want to take KLS or Trey Harris or something later. I think that's okay too. His Discord every year has been doing a Vegas meetup for Summer League. You should get the Spike Elites out there. It's a fun time. Wives even come. That's really interesting, and I might have to. So Summer League is one of my favorite. The problem would be is that I like to play DFS and gamble on Summer League. Not that you wouldn't be able to gamble on it. Of course, you would in Vegas. However, something to consider in terms of financial implications, although maybe it would be good. But I do quite well in Summer League DFS. Don't ask me about regular NBA DFS. That's not my. I can't compete with the big whales anymore in that area. But Summer League, I can swim in those waters. But so I've never been to the Vegas Summer League, and I watch like literally every game of the NBA Summer League. I'm a weirdo with like I said, I watch tons of college basketball. I'm gonna watch all the college football games tonight, right? Like how did you know that Harold Finnan was so good? Why do you love him so much? Do you not watch Maction on Tuesday nights and watch Bowling Green versus Kent State? Yeah, we do. Right. I watch all right. I watch every Formula One race. I have weird sport watching habits, but it's like college basketball, college football, NBA Summer League, all that kind of stuff. I love it. Forget Fannin. Can I interest you in a Rondé Gadsden? He would make sense on this team, but it's Harold Fannin or bust. It's Harold Fannin or bust. For the first time, I didn't take a running back before 110 on underdog. I get the intrigue now. Made me feel some sort of way. A perfect segue from the Real Sex Spice Channel dial-up internet days that we were having there. Wait on running back and draft like 7 of them after pick 100, and tell me that wasn't an exhilarating experience. If you want to know why people become zero running back bros, it's because they do these insane drafts like we do sometimes with like RB1 Dylan, right? RB1 Javonte Williams, RB2 Dylan Sampson, and just like rip a bunch of running backs, set the queue and let her rip. Like, what an experience. It's incredible. I'm 68 and played rec soccer last night. Disregarded my, I don't know how to say that. Scatica? I don't know how to say that. And went anyway. Big mistake. Yeah. So that's my problem, is if I go too hard, we're out of commission for a while. I've also had I truly have I've mentioned this a ton of times, including today, but like I have a terrible back. I hurt my back a couple times a year, generally speaking. So it can be a unfortunate turn of events if I go too hard. That's what she said. What's been your favorite way to attack single entry contests on DraftKings this year? It's a really good question. I just generally don't treat the single entry teams like any different. They're just another team in my portfolio. If anything, I would like to get a little bit, if my opponents are going to play them, 1 second. I could do. See, this is why you take more running backs earlier on. How about let's buy the Browns backfield without Quinshon Judkins, eh? Jerome Ford. We said Shipley went, so I should probably go get some of these guys if I want them. So let's put them in the queue. But I don't generally approach the single entry contest any different. Like I said, just another part of the portfolio. I get the pick that I get. The best ball gods decide whether I get Jamar Chase or someone at the 1-2 turn. However, if our opponents in single entry type stuff are going to play it safer and stick to ADP, that can be a really nice way to be even more unique without, do that BTJ Trey McBride, do that Puka Trey McBride, do that Genty Jonathan Taylor, do something that is still two really solid first and second round picks or third and fourth round picks or whatever, but just flip the board a little bit on them, because it'll be even more unique in something like that if we assume our opponents are also playing it a little bit safer. God damn. This was not the room to be zero RB in. Through 14 rounds of DK Milly number 150, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Lamar Jackson, Xavier. I just don't know how you turn down this start. I don't know what I would have done differently. Like Travion and Hampton are off the board when I come on the clock for Lamar. Even Ken Walker's gone at Worthy. I could have taken Harvey, I guess. Harvey, Connor, Pollard. But I have Lamar, so how do I pass on Zay? And then it comes back around. I'm not taking, Rasheed's there. We tried to set up Mahomes. I don't know. I think that this team just became zero running back because it was supposed to be, not because this wasn't an Eric thing. It generally is an Eric thing, but I don't think it was this time. Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice, Chris Olave, TJ Hawkinson, Javonte Williams, Dylan Sampson, Tank Bigsby, Justin Herbert, Jerome Ford, Keaton Mitchell. So we're going to see if we can't salvage the running back room here. I don't know why I just went away from the draft board. I get so torn in the 20th with Royals, Turpin, and Malik Washington. I like all of those guys. That is, again, a lot of what we talked about with the understanding what's available later type stuff, knowing that you have these late 20th round, 19th round, 18th, 17th round wide receivers that you love. You can pull some of them up if you don't want to have to always decide, right, I'm only going to have Malik on this team or Jalen Royals or Kavonte Turpin. You can take Royals and You can get them all three. Take Royals take probably Malik in the 18th, Royals in the 19th, and Turpin in the 20th if you want to get them all together, or get two of the three. Or you don't want to draft them all on the same team together. You just want to use them as your 20th round picks, but that can inform your earlier picks, right? Like, I know I want wide receivers in the last couple of rounds. So what does that mean? Well, get done with running back a little bit earlier. Get done with quarterback. Get done with tight end a little bit earlier. Antonio Gates, Hall of Fame from Kent State to Herald fan and Rookie of the Year votes. Who says no? Maction. Amen. Amen. Tell me not to take Mixon at 161. Joe Mixon is not going to play football for the Houston Texans this year. If you would like to draft someone who's not going to play football, then by all means, Joe Mixon, wheels up. Don't draft Joe Mixon. Either the S or the C is silent. Don't know which one. English is not logical. Ain't that the truth? I love this. Also hits so close to home with the Harry Potter reference. A draft strategy chooses you just like the wand chooses the wizard. Nailed it. 100%. Jason, why do you like Shipley so much, Eric? So the quick and dirty is that he is the backup to the RB1-ish, right? Let's just call Saquon the RB1 just for sake of the conversation. A top 5 pick. Saquon goes in the top 5. He is the backup. So at an absolute bare minimum, if something were to happen to Saquon, both for an extended stretch, but even just for one game, Will Shipley becomes extremely valuable in our little best ball world. Look, I'm not like excited about Rachaad White, but on this team in the 170s, he's practicing. So I can't believe Rachaad White's on the last fucking DK Milly team I'm going to draft. But so Shipley is at an absolute minimum is the backup to the RB1 overall on one of the best offenses in the NFL and the best running offense in the NFL, right there with the Ravens, behind the best offensive line in the NFL. So those are really good. Obviously, Kenny Gainwell is gone. My expectation, and I think everyone's expectation, should be that Shipley's going to play a little bit. What does a little bit mean? That remains to be seen. All right, hold on. We got up to 6 running backs. Let's save those final running backs for the end. And let's do Troy Franklin here. That's my guy right now amongst late round picks. So the absolute bare minimum is, if something were to happen again, and in best ball at this cheap price, it doesn't have to, like, Saquon doesn't have to tear his ACL or whatever, but like Saquon gets a concussion or just, he tweaked the back just like I do playing basketball. Like, you can get big games for a cheap price from Will Shipley. My expectation is that he's going to play some because Saquon Barkley does not play every single snap of the football game. Kenny Gainwell was playing 25% of snaps last year. Will Shipley should step right into that role, catch some passes, have a useful game or two, right? Right? We all think the Eagles are going to be awesome. And like, they probably beat the shit out of the Cowboys a week from today. And what does that mean? Well, that means Will Shipley's probably playing in the fourth quarter. He can have some useful games in those instances. We don't want to rely on that, but there also is there's just a bunch of different outs to Saquon touched the ball like 1 billion times. The Eagles are trying to win the Super Bowl again. So it would make sense to not overload Saquon Barkley when they're going to make the playoffs. There's no reason to completely overload Saquon Barkley. They're playing for February, not September. So I think it's possible, not necessarily the most likely, but it's possible that Shipley has some decent games even alongside Saquon. And then if something were to happen, if we get to week 17 and they have nothing to play for, there's also then no reason to overwork Saquon Barkley. There's just all these different outs to Will Shipley. And if he was going at pick 100, this is a different conversation, but he's going in the 180s. For most of the summer, he was going after pick 200. So it's just a free swing on insane upside with possible to probable small useful value along the way. Seems great. Aren't you worried about Estime? Yeah. So I've seen multiple people. Somebody I think tagged me on Twitter after Estime signed with the practice squad. Like, and I know it's like, I know all this stuff is joking. I know you guys are, of course, joking, but like there was people really like, oh man, that sucks. Estime signed there. That could be bad for Will Shipley. And it's like, the fuck are you talking about? The Broncos drafted him and immediately cut him in year 2. And it's not like their running back 3 is awesome. He's on the practice squad. He's almost assuredly never going to play for the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, you know who else is on a practice squad as a running back in a murky running back situation? Malik Davis. Are you concerned? Right? No one says, oh man, Malik Davis is on the practice squad. Aren't you worried about Jaden Blue? No one says that. What the fuck are we talking about? Practice squad running backs. Bad practice squad running backs? Like, come on. I know you guys are not saying that. I'm just saying I saw that and I'm just like, God, we need to see, like, start the goddamn games because this is absurd. We're worried about practice squad running backs. Yeah, everybody thinks Javonte is absolutely horrid, and he probably is. And Javonte never left the field when Audric Estime was there. Crazy. Oh no. Who took Fannin? You guys suck. Let's do Manungai. I can't get any of the fun players. This is why you don't stream your drafts. I mean, some of these guys are fun, but Rachaad White instead of Will Shipley. No Harold Fannin. Terrible. yeah, exactly. Okay. About to make pick. I'd solo this before Gadsden. Yeah, I'm not taking. I just don't. Gadsden is below my line of players I want to have in my portfolio. There is a different tight end here though that I like. 2 actually. Let's see. I mean, I'm taking Mike Gesicki. We talked about the Coors Field stuff. Mike Gesicki is like a weird player, but a useful. Let's just look at the game log super quickly. Down the home stretch. Now, one of them was week 18, but in week 17 of last year, he got 12 targets. He's like, after Eric All got hurt, and of course he had this game, 6 for 102 or 5 for 102 against the Raiders. Like, it's not like super pretty, but he's back at practice. He's in free fall because he's been hurt, but he's back, and they're expecting him to play week 1. This is another example of like the market panics. They see a Q tag or an out tag on the player, and like Gesicki is, like I said, so strange because he's more so of a big slot receiver. He's basically a receiver, not a tight end. He's just labeled as a tight end. If you remember, he tried to be labeled as a wide receiver he got franchise tagged and wanted to be, obviously he'd make a lot more money as a wide receiver under the franchise tag. But anyway, I should have had more, honestly, of Gesicki at this price, but Harold Fannin doesn't allow for that. Two more picks in the DK Milly. You'll have to forgive me if you want to see my player exposures. We can go over it tomorrow, but we're going to be about 2.5 hours here. So I think, God bless. You guys did not make this very fun. So this is a great time to take KLS. Wide receiver gets dries up pretty good here at the end. Obviously, have currently unstacked Justin Herbert, and given all of my priority wide receivers are off the board. Isn't it funny how KLS went from that preseason game of everybody losing their shit to now he's just a last round pick again. Similar to Darren Waller. Life is a circle. At least I didn't auto Darren Waller for $500 again. So that's a positive. Do. God damn it, man. I can't believe it's so fitting. On the 150th team, I lose out on Chris Brooks, and it triggers me. It triggers me. That is how you know you're down bad. Okay, I'm on deck, and I really do need a running back. I don't know who the hell to do, though. Maybe I make the Emmanuel Wilson bet against. No. They're gonna trade Brees. They're gonna trade Brees in season, and all of us Braylon Allen slappies are gonna get body bagged by Isaiah Davis. Absolutely not. We don't draft Roshan Johnson around here. We don't draft the RB3 on the Bears. We draft the RB3 on the Jets. Like that's any better. But he has the passing down. Isaiah Davis is going to play on third downs for the New York Jets. I actually don't think he's a bad click. But yeah, Roshan is fine. Let's run down the team. And as I mentioned, tomorrow, if you would like to see where I landed on my exposures to the 150 here on DraftKings, of course, we can look at all. We can pull up Draft IQ. We can look at Underdog, DraftKings, Drafters, everything combined together, and of course, just the 150 here. Yeah, I know exactly. That's pretty funny. I'm just a Roshan hater. It's full, but he's also the goal line guy. I don't think he's going to be the goal line guy. I think that he got a goal line carry in one practice this summer, has not practiced since, and we've just decided that he's for sure the goal line back. I don't believe that to be true. We'll see, but he's going to need to practice to be the goal line back. I think that Roshan is like fetch. We keep trying to make Roshan happen, and Roshan doesn't happen. Roshan didn't happen in college, and Roshan hasn't happened in the pros, and Roshan hasn't happened yet with Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson didn't draft Roshan Johnson. Ben Johnson loves Kyle Monangai, and we don't care because we know better, right? At what point does Roshan Johnson ever have to do something in the NFL before we keep giving him all of this volume, right? We keep giving projectable volume onto Roshan Johnson, and the NFL teams keep telling us he's not good. We don't like him. But we sure do love to keep saying that he's good. He's an interesting one. I would rather swing. That's why I would rather swing. Like, I don't know. Maybe Isaiah Davis is good. And Isaiah Davis is at least the passing down back. So PPR, I can convince myself of it. But I'm not really actually trying to say that Isaiah Davis is better than Roshan Johnson. I'm just making a stand against Roshan in my portfolio. All right. Number 150 in the DK Milly Maker for me. Again, come hang out tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to recap all the latest news, injuries, training camp news, what's Jaden Reed's deal, all that kind of stuff tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. And of course, we'll draft some teams also. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Lamar Jackson, Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice, Chris Olave, TJ Hawkinson, no running backs through 8 rounds. Javonte Williams, please God, score some points in the first month of the season because this team needs it. Dylan Sampson, smash. Tank Bigsby, Justin Herbert. buying the Browns backfield. What a Jesus Christ. Jerome Ford, Keaton Mitchell, Rashad White. This is the most disgusting running back room of all time. Can't wait for it to win $1 million. Troy Franklin, Kyle Monangai, Mike Gesicki, Keandre Lambert-Smith, stacked with Justin Herbert, and Isaiah Davis. What a way to end. What a way to end best ball season. But this gross 0 running back team. Amen. Keaton Mitchell, RB1. If you guys could hit the like button for me on the way out, which is also what Rob's going to say here in the outro. Thank you for joining. This was a ton of fun. 150 BBM teams, 150 DK Milly teams in the books. Next week will be 150 drafters teams, and be on the lookout for week 1 content and a week 1 schedule tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Good luck in all your drafts. Good luck in the college football streets. If you're partaking this evening, enjoy the football, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.